Today we're going to look at what you need to know in regards to your career journey. So we're going to do a pick a card. This is card 1 and this is card 2. I encourage you to pause this video now, look at these two cards and see which one is calling you. Card 1 and card 2 are both time-stamped in the description box. Okay, pause this now. Welcome back. If you picked card 1, this reading is for you. Card 1 is 8 of Swords in reverse. We're going to get some clarifiers here. So give me one moment to move this out of the way. We're going to clarify with one card with the Prism Oracle and one with the Chakra Oracle. So clarifiers, please, for card 1. There we go. Death and Comfort from the Prism Oracle is clarifying 8 of Swords in reverse. And now a clarifier from the Chakra Oracle, please. This one here. Mysticism. Well, it came out in reverse. We'll see if that has a message, otherwise it might just be flipped up right here. Okay. The first thing that's coming to me with this 8 of Swords in reverse is that whether you know it or not, you are in a phase of liberating yourself from limiting beliefs. So the 8 of Swords in a tarot deck typically looks like this, where the person is bound. But what's often said is they could untie themselves and take off the blindfold very easily. So when I see this 8 of Swords in reverse, what that is telling me, like I said before, is that you are unbinding yourself. You are liberating yourself from the limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck. Now, that's not an easy process. So if you are in the midst of some turbulence potentially on your career journey, or maybe like a stagnation or a stuck phase, and it feels like you just can't get the needle moving forward, things aren't going the way you want to, what feels like wants to be said is that there's a purpose to this. So as frustrating and difficult as it is, you're working yourself day in and day out through the process of this liberation, of no longer allowing those ropes and swords and blindfolds metaphorically to keep you stuck. And so there's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of beauty to this reading. Now, let's talk about the Death card and Comfort here, because what these two are telling me first is that this process, this phase that you're in of liberating yourself from those limiting beliefs and behaviors and actions is bringing an important cycle to an end. And I really do believe that cycle has been a cycle of difficulty. So you're in the midst of liberating yourself from this to bring a major cycle to an end. And this cycle could have been a long cycle. In fact, it could have been, up until this point, a lifelong cycle. You could be breaking generational curses. You could be changing family lineage sort of things. And so this is important work that you're doing. It is not comfortable work, but it's important work. Now, as I say that, you have this Comfort card, and a big message that this Comfort card wants to speak out is the importance of giving yourself the self-care you need to maximize the comfort that you're able to experience in a difficult period. And again, as I say difficult period, I want to say it's difficulty for a purpose. So as you're going through this very important, very significant time in your career journey, the more comfort you can bring into your life, the more soothing ways you can talk to yourself, the big and small things you can do to heal your nervous system is going to be huge. It's going to help you. It's kind of going to be the safety net for you as you're working through this process of liberation. Day in, day out, you're pulling those swords out. You're unblindfolding yourself Is that how you say that? You get it. You're taking one rope off at a time. And that's a huge process for your body, for your psyche, and for your nervous system. And so there's a invitation here to be very, very, very kind to yourself in the process. As difficult as this is to be going through and to have to liberate yourself, so you're almost like going through this purge or this cleanse, you're being asked to hold this paradox of death and comfort. Do you know what I mean? That's like a pretty big paradox, right? Of having to go through this massive transition that is not easy, and holding yourself in as much comfort as possible. Now, I guess what's coming to me too, before I move away from this comfort card, is comfort is different than pleasure, right? So I think a lot of times when we're in these seasons and in these phases of cleansing, of initiation, of purging, of liberation, it can be so uncomfortable that sometimes we seek out pleasure, right? But this comfort card is deeper than that. It's like the deep internal comfort you can give yourself through your spiritual practices, through your healing work, through getting support, through doing things like somatic healing and nervous system healing is coming up strongly. So if you've never heard of anything of that, anything along those lines, I encourage you to look that up, because you're really rewiring how you operate in the world, which is a massive feat. That's like a massive energetic feat. And it's also a massive physical feat. Like, your body needs time to catch up. And so any sort of comfort that I'm slowing down, because look, I'm just like noticing this feels like a rewiring happening here, doesn't it? Kind of. That's what it's giving me in this reading, is a rewiring. So anything you can do to facilitate that is going to be incredibly important, even if that has nothing to do with your actual career. What I'm getting the sense here is that your career is some sort of catalyst or trigger for a bigger, so whatever's happening in your career right now that may feel difficult, it is some sort of, again, catalyst or trigger to help you with this important healing work that you're doing. And so a lot of this is going to be more personal work that you do that will eventually impact your career journey. But right now it seems like more like your career journey is initiating this, or is a catalyst for this important personal healing work that you're being called to do. And so maybe that gives you some permission to take your focus off. Like, so if you're trying to troubleshoot something in your career journey, or trying to fix everything that's uncomfortable in that realm of your life, this is like a invitation to actually focus more inward into your personal healing. And that eventually will positively impact your career journey. So realizing that although this is a career reading, the career is, again, just a trigger or a catalyst for some personal healing that you're going through, and you're in the midst, and you're doing a beautiful job. So this is like a what wants to be spoken out is like appreciation for what you are doing. So let me see if I can say that differently. It's like you're seen by Spirit, and she knows how uncomfortable this is, and she's so appreciative that you're willing to do this healing work because it's so important. But she understands the discomfort that you're in, and she's wanting to say, the more, again, you're willing to let this cycle come to an end, provide the deep comfort that you need, letting this healing happen, that's going to eventually positively impact your career journey. So the more permission you can give to yourself to kind of paradoxically focus less on your career and more on your personal healing, that is going to eventually very positively impact your career. Now, finally, here we have from the Chakra Oracle, the Mysticism card, and it was in reverse. And to me now what that's saying is it's just directly relating here to the Eight of Swords being in reverse. I feel like it is saying that the way that you're liberating yourself from the binds that the Eight of Swords represents is through mysticism. It is through spiritual work. It is through surrendering to the unknown. It is through observing more than acting. And when I say that, like, I'm a huge fan of action. I mean, we're always acting, even if we are observing, that is an action. But I think it's more of like a stepping back, I guess is what I'm trying to say, instead of trying to move forward in your career. Right now, what's being asked of you is a step back so that you can focus primarily on yourself. And part of that step back is, and what's coming to me right now is like an unblending, not with your career. So let me re-say that. I do think you're being asked to step back from your career, not in terms of like you need to quit your job, but in terms of trying to solve the discomfort that you're going through the avenue of your career at night. So like this fixation on like, maybe if I can fix this in my career journey, or fix that in my career journey, or get this working, you know, if you're a business owner in my business, or if I could get that promotion if you're an employee, so on and so forth. And to take a step back, and instead of, again, fixating on that, instead focus. So feel the difference between fixation and focus, right? Fixation is like a trauma response. Focus is a conscious endeavor, focusing on your healing, right? So that's one way the mysticism card is speaking to me in terms of stepping back. But another way it's speaking to me is, again, the term unblending came to me, and that's a term I learned from Dr. Richard Schwartz. He is the author of an incredible book called No Bad Parts. And so if any of this is resonating, I'd really encourage you to look up that book and look up his work. He talks about his philosophy is called internal family systems. And he talks about how there's different parts of us. We're multifaceted beings. And when we don't realize that, what often happens is we blend with different parts of us, and we can often not realize it, like I said, and then we're like acting from those parts' insecurities instead of unblending, getting a bit bigger and holding space for these different parts, getting information from them, but not acting from them. Does that make sense? So he is all about what he calls self-leadership. And I feel like what this mysticism card is saying, that there's this not only like the beauty of stepping into the unknown, which is what you're doing because you're going through a death process. You're metaphysically, right? You're putting down aspects of yourself that you used to be, and you're stepping into who you're going to become, which is unknown. But also the mystical qualities of Mother God, frankly. So Mother God is like the epitome of self-leadership, right? She is able to hold anything without judgment, without punishment. And there's like a mystical aspect of that, isn't it? And so I feel like what's being asked of you, part of what's being asked of you in this mysticism card is like permission to, or an invitation to, be a bit more mystical in this professional endeavor. So realizing again that the mysticism that you embody personally is going to eventually positively impact your professional journey, your career journey, right? But sometimes that's hard to trust, and sometimes it's hard for us to give ourselves permission, especially if we're dealing with some pretty intense things. So there's like this realization, or I feel like it's a permission slip that wants to be, signed, sealed, and delivered to you from Mother God. And she's saying like, you have permission to tap into your mystical side, where you have capacity to hold space for these different parts of yourself that are asking for healing. And instead of blending with them and acting out of their insecurities, blending with them and maybe fixating, you can unblend, be bigger than, be mystical, be in self-leadership, hold space for all of them, that's where the healing and integration work is going to happen. That's where the rewiring is going to happen, and the old versions of yourself are going to die away, liberating yourself from the binds that you have. And that's when like new buds in your career journey can start to come forth. But they're not going to come forth through force. They're going to come forth in Mother God's timing. They're going to come forth through mysticism. They're going to come forth in a path that might be unknown to you now. And so I think, yeah, there's just huge permission. And I'm just noticing here the purple of the lilacs with the purple of mysticism. So it might be worth it to look up lilac symbolism. But there really is such a huge, what am I trying to say? This is a big journey that you're on. So if it feels heavy, that makes sense. And again, it's heavy for a purpose. It's very important. And you're already in the midst, and you're being acknowledged in this reading for that you're not just starting this, you're in the midst. And so continue to do what you're doing. And then if anything resonated in this reading, look into that, act on that, and really, again, instead of fixating on your career, take a step back, focus on your personal healing, and eventually that's going to massively and in a positive way impact your career journey. So I wish you all the best. I'm sorry for the discomfort that you're going through. In my own way, I can certainly resonate. My career journey was definitely a catalyst for a ton of personal healing. And I don't think that's talked about enough in our culture, how, especially, I don't know, it's just like we're just supposed to like be professionals and have certain skill sets and like put them to work. But really, it's a huge endeavor to figure out who you are and how you want to work and what you have to offer the world. And it can bring up a lot of personal stuff. It can bring up clashing things in your family. There's just a lot there to work through. So you're doing it right, not wrong. It's just uncomfortable because there's things to cleanse out that aren't your fault. We all just have choices we made unconsciously. We have ways we were coded from our culture and subcultures and families. And so there's just like a lot to process and work through. And I think that's what's being asked here, is just a willingness to look more holistically at everything that's going on, and realizing that, again, fixating on your career is not going to solve, kind of paradoxically, not going to solve any of your career issues if you're experiencing any discomfort on your career path, but instead focusing on yourself, giving yourself the kindness and comfort that you deserve as you work through this very important process, and truly celebrating yourself along the way, because it's people like you who are willing to work through the shadow stuff, willing to integrate instead of fragment from the difficult aspects of your past and your present, and to liberate yourself, which is again what you're doing. Like, this is not Eight of Swords in upright. This is Eight of Swords in reverse, and to me that feels like a detoxing of this very self-limiting behaviors and beliefs. So you're really doing such great work. And again, if you're experiencing discomfort, you're not alone. I think the key is just to use the discomfort to move forward in very healing and powerful ways. Welcome back. This reading is for you if you picked card 2. Card 2 is Ace of Swords. Isn't that a cool Ace of Swords? I love that so much. Look at, I feel like what is being represented here is like the Ace of Swords, almost it's got the whole sword journey embodied in this Ace of Swords, right? I feel like that's what that represents. But there's, with aces, I do think they represent new beginnings, but I also think they represent like pure potential that has to be brought down into reality through our own choices and actions. So let's get some clarifiers on this and see what story wants to come through to you in terms of your career journey. So what do we need to know? So from the Prism Oracle deck, I think it's that one. Came out right away. So from the Prism Oracle deck, as a clarifier to the Ace of Swords, what came out was an anxiety. And from the Chakra Oracle deck, what came out was victim. And then as I'm looking over here, I set the Chakra Oracle deck. I happened to set it down face up, and wisdom was speaking to me. Another green card. Okay, wow. What a powerful reading. So the first thing that is coming to me is that I feel like this Ace of Swords is an invitation to look for not only new strategies, because I often think of swords, one of the things they symbolize to me is strategy, but specifically strategy of thought. New strategy of thought is the specific term coming to me. And I think that relates here to these clarifiers. So starting here with anxiety, anxiety is often, well, it's many things, but in terms of this reading, what's coming to me is that it can be healed with new strategies of thought. And I thought this was so interesting here. What was pulled for you for the chakra clarifiers were victim and wisdom. So obviously what is standing out here is they're both green cards, right? So green in terms of the chakras represent your heart center, your heart chakra. And what came to me for what that represents in this reading is getting to the heart of the matter. So in terms of your career journey, the things that cause anxiety, they can be opportunities for you to get to the heart of the matter in terms of how you're thinking. And if you can move from thinking that causes you to feel like a victim to thinking that causes you to feel wise, that's going to be the key. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, but that is what's being asked of you, is this invitation to see that these are choices. Now, what's very interesting too is that the victim card is the very first card in the green chakra, and the wisdom card is the very last card. So there's something here about a maturation process that is happening within you, that is maybe being asked to happen within you. And it's a maturation of thinking. And I think the very exciting thing about this reading is it's trying to tell, is there's like a soothing, I know anxiety is coming up, but there's this like soothing aspect that's coming over me. And it really wants to tell you that you don't have to stay stuck in anxiety. And by saying that, I don't mean like bypassing the feeling. Instead, what I mean is that instead of on your career journey, when you're feeling anxious about something, instead of like going down that rabbit hole and then just staying stuck in anxiety, realizing that actually every time this anxiety arises, there is an opportunity to move from victim to wisdom in how you're thinking. Does that make sense? So I think before, what might have been common for you is to like have the anxiety feel like it's bigger than you and like you can't do anything about it. There was like a blending with the anxiety. There just feels like there's this like rabbit hole sort of energy. And I feel like what's being asked is just more of like realizing that you can get bigger than the anxiety and you can kind of tease it out. You can process it. You can look for what it's trying to tell you that is going to help you get to the heart of the matter. So anxiety, we often think it's such a huge problem because it's so uncomfortable. And it really is just a messenger, right? It's a messenger that can help you get to the heart of the problem. And the heart of the problem, in really any problem, I mean, it's just like so beautifully displayed here, is that, when we feel anxious, we certainly feel like a victim. We feel like something, we are, our problems are bigger than us, right? And one practice that I have in my life is reminding myself when I get into those moods that the act alone of observing a problem means that I'm bigger than it is. You know what I mean? Anything we can observe, we're bigger than. And so I think there's a invitation here too of just being of a willingness just to confront, not in a negative sense, but just look at the problems. Because I think sometimes when we don't look at the problems in our lives, we feel like that's helping us deal with our anxiety. But really, usually we just go into like a rabbit hole of shame, right? And so I feel like what's wanting to be said is, first step is just look at the problems and remind yourself that if you're looking at it, if you're observing it, anything you can observe, you're bigger than it is. And then from there, when you're willing to observe something, when you're willing to look at it, then there's opportunities to process. And like I said before, there's like this teasing out sort of energy that I'm getting. And as we show ourselves we can do that more and more and have different ways of thinking as we tease out these problems, then we move from victim to wisdom. I mean, it's really quite beautiful. I feel like what's wanting to be said is anything on your career journey that is making you anxious, it's not actually about the thing. It's about an opportunity for you to move from victim energy to wisdom energy, which is amazing because when we embody this, what can we not do? I said that sort of weird, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing we can't do when we are being wise, when we are wise counsel to ourselves and others. And so it's almost like anything that is causing you anxiety on your career journey is really just an initiation to transmute this energy into this energy. And that's an incredibly powerful act. I mean, like, look at the power. I mean, this is just so interesting, isn't it? Like here, this is kind of like feeling like anxiety, right? And it's like gripping around and around. Where here, she's mastered it, right? And now she becomes this alchemist. She understands how to transmute this into this, and she understands anxiety is the not the problem, just the messenger of an opportunity to transmute this into this. And the more each of us grow in that capacity, the more each of us practice that, then our life doesn't get easier, but we get stronger, right? And so then it feels easier. And I think that's what true ease is. And so I think anything that is causing you anxiety right now on your career journey is actually there to help you move towards more ease in your life, which comes from strength. I just wish somebody would have told me that earlier on, that ease comes from strength, because I thought ease came from trying to orchestrate my life in a way where it was easy. But I'm realizing there's such ease in growing in my capacity, growing in my wisdom, transmuting my thinking, transmuting my strategies, tangible strategies in business and in work, but like also strategy of thought, right? Transmuting that from this energy, victim energy, to wisdom energy. And within wisdom energy, there's so much capacity and there's so much you're able to hold. And so I think as much as anxiety is just so awful, it's so awful. It's so awful to feel smaller than your problems. It's just the worst. But I know in my life, the more I can remind myself that that's a message inviting me to make this very important journey of transmutation from getting to the heart of these matters, from going from victim to embodying wisdom, then I move forward in any area of my life, not just in my career, in strength. And with strength comes ease. And so I think there is an acknowledgement here that you're ready. You are becoming stronger, and you're ready. You're ready to become stronger. As much as you might feel in anxious mode, what Spirit wants you to know is it's not true. It's just a message that this invitation is inviting you to. And it starts with the first step of just looking at your problems, looking at the problems you have in your career and that are related to your career, looking at them, acknowledging them. And then from there, reminding yourself, okay, if I'm looking at it, I'm bigger than it is. It's only bigger than us when we run from it. Isn't that crazy? But when we turn and look, now we're observing. Okay, now we can see. And then as we start to look, then we can begin to process. Again, then we can tease out. And bit by bit, we get information, we get new ideas, we have new strategies of thought that start to transmute this energy of my problems are bigger than me to I am wise counsel for myself and others. I embody wisdom. I am strong, and therefore life is becoming easier. I am strong, and therefore my career path is becoming easier and more fruitful. So it's a really incredible place you're at, and I can just feel the power pulsing here. And I do want to say, like, you're not alone if you feel like you're drowning in anxiety. I feel like that's just like not talked about enough on the career journey. There's so many reasons our career can make us so anxious, and can feel and can have us turning away from our problems and then going down the rabbit hole of shame. And that was a big part of my career path. So I can personally resonate with the essence I'm getting through your reading. So you're just like far from alone. And I know everything started to change for me when I just started looking at things, looking at my problems, right? And that, I think, is what's being asked, and realizing that as you start to look, you're going to have new strategies of thought that are going to lead you to wisdom and out of anxiety. Not that anxiety won't ever arise again. It's a messenger. So it's, I think we all need to get into a healthy, lifelong relationship with anxiety, how we view it, how we listen to it, right? But I mean it being a prevailing essence. Your prevailing essence is going to move to wisdom. I can just feel that for you. You're en route to wisdom. As much as you might feel anxiety is taking over, all that's happening is this wisdom path is presenting itself as a potential, and it's your choice if you want to step onto it. But I think there's an incredible amount of beauty and an incredible amount of potential of transmuting the problems that are making you anxious, the problems that are making you feel like they're bigger than you, into you being in charge, into you being wise and kind and strong.